setting it up. Why isn't this showing up on here? Maybe because I turned it off? There's computer issues. Not on that side. All right, so this computer sometimes has issues. And I think that there's a weird little button that controls the camera that I might have turned off, which I'm pretty sure I turned off. And I might just have to do this on my phone. Where is that little button? This is where it's obvious that I'm not a very techie sort of person, because I'm pretty sure I saw the button over around here sometime. Oh, there it is. Retry. Wait a minute. Now it's on. Oh, well, this is ridiculous. So it's not even Mercury retrograde yet, and I'm going to have to do this here. There we go. Start live video. There we go. Now we are live. Sometimes these computers, they just don't do the thing I want them to do. So we're on another night of conscious mind tripping with me, myself, and I, and whoever comes on board with me here. And tonight's one of those fun nights that I am going to be interacting with you all as soon as I get this finished here. So I guess that's good. Hey, Jennifer, you're on here with me. I love it. Thank you very much for joining me. How are you? Tonight's a night that I get to interact with you all, and it's not all about what I have set up for you all. And Christina's here, and I'm getting hearts. So how are you all doing? As always, I'm gold. I love that. I love that a lot. And I love that you're good too. But I think you're also gold. Isn't gold one of those precious things? I would put you down as a precious thing. Not a precious metal, but a precious being on the planet. You bring a lot of love and a lot of light. There's people walking behind me. So I do have a few things that I wanted to talk about tonight, and I want you all to, you're very welcome. It's heartfelt. I wanted to say a few things before I start interacting, and I want you guys to know tonight's one of those nights that you get to ask me questions about what's going on in your life, or questions about just about anything. I am available for any answers that I might be able to share. So, with that being said, I want to start with something that I think is important that I've been looking at. There is all this information out there, and there's, a plethora of it at this point. And I look at a lot of things. I don't do it obsessively. I don't do it to the point where it upsets my life. I do it because, and I was thinking about this, and I'm going to say why I do this. When I was little, as I've said many times, I had basically like a program that was running that I wasn't very smart. So I looked at my timeline. I've looked at all the things that I've done in my life, and there's been many, many times where I have really gone out and searched for information because I wanted to be smarter. And now I realize that as I'm looking for all of this information, it's not that I want to be smarter anymore. I want to be able to make conscious choices. I want to be able to use my critical thinking. I want to be able to come from a place of knowing whatever truth I can find. So, in all the searching that I have done, one of the things that I found, and it was a while ago, there was a law that was put into effect. It was called the Smith-Mundt Act. And they put it into effect because they realized that along the way, and to be clear, I don't want this to be political at all. This isn't about politics. This is just about what's going on as far as information and as far as what we can know. Because in order to come from a conscious choice with things, we have to come from an intentional conscious choice based on logic, reason, deduction, based on what we can know. So this Smith-Mundt Act was put into effect because they literally said, we don't want it to be where there is propaganda, where there's lies. When it comes to the media or people who are in a position of giving information, we want it to be where they're giving information from a point of truth, from a point of this is what's accurate, this is what's real. So that was in effect for a long time until Obama was in office and he made a revision on it. You can look this up, not making it up. So when he made that revision, he said that the Smith-Mundt Act, not so much anymore. So the media can say whatever they want. They can do propaganda. They can literally lie. They can skew the story however they want. And most people have no idea of this. So it really came into effect this week when, and by the way, I just want you to be very clear. This isn't about being pro anything or against anything. It's about having information and knowing what we need to know to make those conscious choices. So when it came out that the Pfizer vaccine was approved, I mean, you see it on the news, it looks like it's approved. And they're making it out to be, well, Pfizer approved it. Not really. It was written in a way with another vaccine where they approved a vaccine. You can look this up. I forget the name of it. I'm not going to get that deep into it where I have to memorize it, but you can look it up. So they approved a vaccine that's not even there yet. Like if you were to go to the doctor and say, look, I want that vaccine that Pfizer approved, they would say, well, we don't have that vaccine yet. It was approved to be in production or approved, whatever that means, but they don't actually have that vaccine. And the vaccine that Pfizer is actually putting out there, they reappropriated it to be emergency use only. So they extended the emergency use only. So just to be clear, that one wasn't approved. It was extended for the emergency use only. So when you're hearing it on any kind of news or whatever, that it looks like that was approved and now it'll be mandated everywhere, it's not really 100% accurate at all. So I wanted to say that because One of the things that we all have is our ability to choose. But if you're not knowing exactly what you're choosing, then you're not making a very conscious choice. You're making more of a manipulated choice in some way, shape, or form. So again, this isn't about being political. This is about understanding what it is that we're all looking at, because it's important. I mean, this is something that we're putting into bodies. And the other part of it is there's a lot of censorship. So I see all of this news of different people that are being adversely affected by it. And I don't think it's getting put out on the news as much. You can go into various sites and you can see, many people who are having effects from this, but it's not where they're saying on the news that it's now approved. So it's super important to be aware of this so that as we're all making our choices, we're coming from a place of choosing consciously, this is what I'm doing and this is why. Because I'm just going to say, we have this one body, and that's the one body that we get. And if it's having things that are adversely reacting to it because we were unaware when we did what we did, then there's a challenge. So all I'm saying is look it up. Look up the Smith-Mundt Act, MUNDT, I believe it is, Smith-Mundt, and, understand what we're all at the effect of. So with that being said, I wanted to go into something a little lighter. So I have my youngest that's learning how to, not learning, she's driving now, and she's got to take that driving test. And there's a part in my book where I talk about learning to drive more consciously. In fact, when I was writing the book, I was sitting here in my office and I was kind of stuck. And I'm going to get to that in a minute, Jen. I'll address that in a minute. So in writing that part of the book, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, how do I go from this into the car analogy? How do I make all of this work? So as I'm sitting there here in my office, I'm sitting here and it's like, how do I do this? And I was in a writer's block and I was pretty stuck for a while. And then I just sat there and I just meditated, and this really amazing song came on the radio, and it just put me in a really like Zen sort of space. So in that space, I was open and I was available. So as I'm sitting here in this office, and it was on a Sunday, I started to notice that there was this car that kept driving around the parking lot. And I'm like, nobody comes here on Sundays, basically. It's me, myself, and I. And I was writing, and I kept noticing, and finally I looked, and it was a parent and a kid, and they were having driving lessons. I started laughing, and I had then my segue of how to go from where I was in the book into the car analogy. And so one of the things that I tell people with this whole thing with the car analogy, it's like, this is the body is the car. The soul is the driver, and you're either driving consciously, informed, aware, awake, and you are coming from a place of at least being calm, or you're in what I call your fear feelings. You're anxious, you're stressed, you're worried, you have all those kind of things going on. So getting back to the driving lessons, for the last, I don't even know how many days, I've been driving with my daughter, who is doing a very good job. But it's been really fun to watch what she's doing. And I think if we all did this in life, because for a lot of the time, if we're driving when we are calm and we are having our intention met, and our attention is where we're at and knowing where we're going, and we're watching the road sign, watching the perceptions along the way, we're going to do much better than if we're coming from a place of fear. So as she's driving, she sits there and before she even starts the car, she's like, I'm grounded, I'm centered, I'm focused, I'm calm. And then she just gets herself in that position. And then she knows as I'm driving, she's going to go wherever she's going. And if she has a moment that she gets into something, I can see her settling herself, regrounding herself. And I was thinking as I was getting ready for tonight that it would be such a awesome thing if we had the wherewithal to do that on a regular basis in our own lives as we're going into something that we know we're going to be a little maybe anxious about. Like, for an example, when I'm doing this podcast here on Thursday nights with you all, there's a part of me that it's challenging to do. I mean, I'm here by myself. I see you guys in there. And hi, Mary Pat. Hello there, Miss Amy Borland Border, my sister, and Jen, and all of you. Joel, hi. I'm so excited to have you guys all join me because it makes it much easier to do this. But there's a part before I ever sit down here, like, for instance, just a little while ago, I had one of those moments. For whatever reason, my camera wasn't working on my other computer, so I had to put it on my phone, had to get grounded and centered and focused and calm so that I can do what I'm going to do here, which tonight is one of those nights that's not planned out. So when you're having one of those moments, if you can literally stop the car and take that moment to recenter yourself, like my daughter does. I'm grounded, I'm centered, I'm focused, I'm calm. And then she'll literally take a drive around the block just to get the feel of the car, just to become more one with the car. And then she's ready to go and she's going to do what she's going to do. And she's been amazing at driving. So it's really important to have that ability even when you're the most stressed out, because when you are that stressed out, you go into this stuff. And sometimes even down here into the fight, flight, freeze part where you're not thinking very clearly. And that's where I know I have made some bad choices in my life and done some things that it's like, wish I had made a better decision on that. So when you're able to literally stop the car, reevaluate, recenter, recalibrate, this is what I'm doing and this is why, you're going to get where you want to go much better. So that being said, I want to go to what Jen said here. And she said, what I'm worried about is jobs making us get these shots just to keep the job. I don't want it. I've had COVID already. I got antibodies. I don't want it. I know Merlin and Golden Arrow says we won't have to, but what do I do? Well, there's options. Like, for instance, you are in the process, I believe, of possibly getting a job. So what I'm aware of is that there are religious and medical exemptions. And I believe that there are tests that you can do, like a titers kind of test, where you can test for antibodies in it. And because I know you well and I know your medical history, there's a part of it where you can say, I've just had this huge deal last October. I already had COVID. I'm pretty sure I have the antibodies. And from what I've seen and the different reports that I've looked at, I don't want to test, my body and having some adverse reaction. So there's a part to it where you're here now and you're driving the car. And if you find that you're going into worry about something that hasn't even happened yet, there's a part of it where you step back and you say, well, wait a minute. Like, for an example, both of my daughters are going into college and they don't want to get the thing either. So we had to step back, and first we tried doing the homeoprophylaxis card. It's a vaccine card. That didn't work because they want this card or that card, not the one that we presented. So then it was like, all right, I can't do a medical thing. So what we did was a religious thing. And as I was looking at it, I was like, at first I looked at it and went, we're not a part of any religious organization. And then I was talking with Nick and he said, Audrey, we have Newmont Center. And then I looked at him and I said, oh, and we're both ministers. And I'm a spiritual practitioner. So I set my intention and we did a lot of homework and we wrote I wrote a letter. My daughter wrote a brilliant letter and we put those in and we got the exemption. So you have to really be clear not to come from a place of fear around it or what the possibility might be. There's a part of it where you say, this body is not getting that for whatever reasons we all might have. And it's okay for us all to have our own reasons with it. So there's the part of it where you look and you say, I'm getting a job where I'm able to be sovereign in my own body and I do what it is that I need to do. Does that make it better for you? Is that helpful? Hi, Gloria. Mary Pat, love to you as well. I'm so loving you here. Hi, Kim. Hey. So if any of you are having a moment in your lives and there is something that's going on and it's a struggle for you, tonight's one of those nights where I have tools in here. And when my clients come in, I share these tools and I can't even express to you enough. I mean, I've had people over the years be in some really gnarly situations. And in the process of life, oh, you're healing from COVID and a kidney infection. There you go, Kim. You know what? I saw that you had a moment going the other day, and I want to say I've been holding you in prayer. I saw that you had that. I'm thinking that it's healing and that you're getting better from it. You know what's funny? I had somebody else that I knew that went to, I believe it was Hawaii, and they got COVID while they were there as well. You know, it's the interesting thing is for most of the people that I have seen, talked to, known about that have had that, most of them have had a hard moment with it or no symptoms hardly at all. It's really varied the amount of symptoms, but it's like a really gnarly flu. There you go. I'm so glad that you are healing. And I think that there is a part of it where because there has been so much that has gone on around this, that people get it and they get terrified of what could possibly be happening with them. Heal quickly, Kim. Yes. So it was awful, but then now you're getting on the other side of it. So I want to back it up a little bit. I don't even remember. Remember when the H1N1 was out? That was a gnarly one. And I had it back to back. I had it, thought it was better, and then I got it like worse. And it was like I had to go to the hospital at one point because I couldn't breathe very well. And it was really scary. And I'm looking at what my symptoms were with that kind of a flu and looking at what's going on with this and looking at the numbers, looking at, all the facts and figures around this. And it's very interesting. I think our fear comes into play sometimes even more so than what's kind of going on with it. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, if I had the kind of information that I had then about that H1N1 that I got and had the additional stuff with, hi, George, my channel, stick around. You'll see what it's about. I got people coming in on the YouTube channel too. At any rate, had I had the kind of information that I had about that, like what we have had with this, I probably would have been much more terrified. And it's super important. Yeah. So it was for you being there and the unknown and what. So your doctors were good for you. So it's important when we have something that is an illness, something that is kind of tricky in the body, that we focus on, and this is so important because I'm telling you, I've healed a kidney stone that was really super painful. I'm talking with Facebook and YouTube. So if I'm looking here, I'm looking there, it's one of you. So I'm looking at both places. So when your body is in a moment of what's called dis-ease, there's a part of it where your heart is producing electromagnetic energy. So say, for instance, you start getting symptoms of whatever. And we all know that some of the symptoms of this thing are a lack of taste and a lack of smell. But then because we've heard all of this news of what it could look like, we start going into feeling panicked, especially if we're in a place that we're not used to. So then you can go into panic. Well, when your heart is producing the electromagnetic energy from the vibration of panic, that's not the same as calm. So when we're feeling that vibration, that literally talks to not only the 50 trillion cells in the body, but it starts talking to, you start getting thoughts about it. So between your thoughts and your feelings, that starts creating within your body. So when you have something and the symptoms are whatever, when you go into a panic mode or you go into feeling any of those fear feelings, I mean, when we're talking about fear feelings, if you're looking in this, my workbook that I've created, a lot of times my clients, they don't even really get to their fear feelings because they have blocked them out so much. They suppress them. And the unknown, where you're going to say, hold on. So when you're having these feelings, they're creative within the body. And just to go a little bit more into detail about it, I know some of you have heard me talk about this before. There's this book that I use a lot with my clients. It's called Metaphysical Anatomy. And in this, I mean, it's a very detailed book, and it goes into all these different syndromes, body symptoms, and what can be the cause of it. And I can't even express to you enough how many times I'm working with my clients. Like, for instance, this one woman had a blocked salivary gland, and it was disturbing for her. So I look it up. I read what the emotions were around it. And she looked at me and she goes, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm dealing with right now. So the reason to say all this isn't to make anything that we've ever done wrong or bad or whatever. It's, again, more information so that when we do get sick, we're making a conscious choice. So for instance, if I'm getting sick with something, there's a part to me where I go, all right, so I need to stay calm about this, and I need to adjust what I'm doing. So if I'm starting to feel ill from something, I'm going to bring my body down a bit. I'm going to maybe meditate a little bit more. I'm going to be as calm as possible. And I'm going to focus on whatever the part of my body is that's got the challenge. And I'm going to start bringing my mind back to, it's already healing. It's already getting better. I'm going to give you an example of it. A few years ago, I had a lump in a certain part of my body. And there was a moment, it was like the size of a lima bean. And I felt it and I was like, oh. And there was this moment I went into like a bit of panic. And then I brought myself back and I was like, all right, so it doesn't hurt. That's good. And I thought, well, if I go to the doctor, then they're going to make it hurt. And they're going to probably want to look at it or biopsy it or something, or maybe take it out. So there was a part of me that was like, I'm going to try another approach. So I went to my energetic healer and I told him, hey, I got this thing. And so we looked at what could it represent? What would be the emotions around it? And I did have emotions around it. I did have emotions that were going on at the time. So we looked at the emotions, we brought them to the surface rather than it just being in my body. I wanted to see it. I wanted to see what would cause me to have something like that going on. So we did the work around it. I recognized what it was. And it was probably, I don't know, maybe 2-3 days later, it felt different. There was like a rough edge to it. And in that moment, I was like, yay, hallelujah, thank God, it's already going away. And I think it was within 2 or 3 another days, it was completely gone and it's never come back. So we have the ability within our body to heal these things that are going on, but we're not taught these things. I mean, many of you know about my kidney stone, and I've had other things as well. So there's a part to it where we're taught from being very little, oh my gosh, if something's wrong with your body, you better get to the doctor and you better get some drugs to fix it. Never in my whole lifetime did anybody ever say, hey, you know what, there's a part of this where you want to recognize what's going on with you and you want to be calm about it and you want to do the healing around it. So the reason for this whole conversation isn't to say that we should never go to the doctor. I think there is benefit to doctors, but there's also a lot of benefit to really understanding how we create in our body and how stress creates and how stress really breaks down the immune system. It's a proven fact. It does. And so when we start learning how that reacts within our body, then we can make, again, the conscious choices to do something about it. So maybe you do need to go to the doctor. Maybe there is something that can be done. And maybe you want to go to a holistic doctor and do it naturally. There's all these different options, but if you don't know what the options are, then it makes it really hard to change them. Does all that make sense? And Kim, I know you pretty well. One thing that you did, you just powered through with your strength on that one. There's another part to it where you just say, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I might be scared and it might be, really disturbing to be in a new place and to not really have my regular doctors or my regular people around. And you know what? I'm just going to go through it. And that's another part of it as well. Sometimes you just got to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and power through. That's another part of life. Jen, you know that. You definitely know that. One of the things that I've been finding with a lot of my clients and people in general, and it goes back to these fear feelings. We have, for so many of us in this moment that we've got going on right now, it's for many people, especially when we were locked down for such a period of time, there's been a lot of it where people go into these feelings, like, for instance, worried, afraid, terrified, nervous, panicky, jittery, anxious, lonely, apprehensive, mad, angry, exasperated. You know what's funny on here? I put lonely twice. Disappointed, overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is huge. So what happens is we have been through this for such a long period of time that what I've been finding is that we get into a habit of this is just what has become normal. And people get kind of shut down. And it's like, this is just where I'm at. This is just kind of like the new normal. And it's unfortunate. And I think that we have to really recognize what that means individually for ourselves. And did we get kind of stuck? Is this just a habit that I got into? So it's a really important moment to step back and look at, what have I created for myself in this moment? Am I kind of stuck in a fear mode about things? Am I stuck in these habits? Like, I've talked to a few people who have spent a lot of time at home alone, and they get into their habits when they're alone because it's just a habit. And, you get into fear, you get kind of what we look at as far as being frozen. This is the very primitive area of the mind. And there's that fight, flight, freeze. So they kind of lose the fight because who are you fighting? And they just get kind of like stuck. And I have worked with many people who have had this situation happen. So, for instance, in their home, they're ordering food. So they're not going out to get food. They are kind of living very isolated. So some of them, maybe they don't shower as often as they used to. They don't get dressed up. They don't put on, something to make them feel special. They're not talking to a lot of people outside or bringing people in. So they're feeling like this is normal. This is the new home, being here in the computer, being, in this world rather than feeling the energy of other people. So it's really important to get that whatever the habits that you might have created in this period of time, they're just habits. So I'll give you an example of this one. My mother, God bless my mother. She showed me so many things in my lifetime. My mother, when she was younger, she had a moment where she became agoraphobic. She'd had a hysterectomy and they took everything. And so she would go to the grocery store and not be able to deal with having like a panic attack because they had taken her hormones and her everything was way off the balance. And it was so long ago, they really didn't understand, or she didn't understand. The doctors didn't know how to tell her, look, you're going through a hormonal imbalance. It's very imbalanced. So that's why you're having these panic attacks. So she reached a point where she said, you know what? I'm just not leaving the house. And she didn't leave the house for like 10 years. I think it was around 10 years. And it was really hard, especially for her at first, but then it became like normal. And then it was like, something's got to give here. I really should be able to get out of this house. So what she did, I was so impressed with her. She never went to a therapist, a psychiatrist, anybody. She just said, all right, I got to get my butt out of this house. So she lived on a lake and she went out one day and she walked down the street and she came back. And that was enough for the one day. But she changed the habit. And then she went out and she walked down the street further. Maybe she walked around the block. Each day she would go further and further. And it was like just stretching herself to the point that she could do it. And then one day she got in the car and she drove and she found herself a job. And she changed her life from that point forward. And it was a steady progression of things. And she made it better. So whenever we get ourselves in a moment where we're stuck, there's no blame on it. There's no guilt. There's nothing around it. There's no shame. There's just this moment of, I'm kind of tired of being where I'm at. So what can you do to change those habits? What can you change to step out of where you are and expand your life a little more? And it can be anything. I mean, even if you have been out and about, look at where you're at in the moment and then start owning new visions for yourself. Make an intention list. Like what I have people do sometimes, I have an appointment book. And in my appointment book, there's all the weeks. I'm not going to bring up my appointment book because then I would open up my book and there would be names in there. So what I have people do is get like a small appointment book. And in that appointment book at the beginning of the week, what's something that you can change in that week? Can be something on the bigger side or little or whatever, but what's something that you can change in that week? So like what my mother did, this week, I'm going to take a walk. Each day I'm going to walk a little bit further, and then the next week and the next week. So go into your appointment book. This is one of the tools. You go into your appointment book and you start marking out, what can I do this week to expand my situation? And Jen says, I've always told myself, feel the F was to do it anyway. Once you get to your destination, you're fine. So when I feel anxiety going to work or anywhere, I can just go. Feel the feeling was, you're writing in code sometimes, Jennifer. I need a little bit more detail. So, and that part of you where you feel the anxiety going to work or anywhere, you can just go, oh, feel the fear. Feel the fear. I get it. And that's exactly it. So that's another big part of it. And there's a really good video by this woman. Her name is Lori Ladd. And she had another girl on the video. And it was probably, I don't even know how many days ago, but I was so impressed with how they were talking about this. And this is one of those things that I have to really coax people to do, is feeling the feeling. And one of my clients said, I got the feels. I like the way she said that. But for many of us, it's like, I don't have time to feel angry or sad. I don't have the capacity. If I feel the sadness that I have inside of me, it's going to overwhelm me. And I won't be able to go there. And I've heard all these different reasons of why people don't feel how they're feeling, why they suppress it. And every single time when they allow themselves to go through the feeling of sadness, they're going to cry. They're definitely going to cry. But they get to the other side of it and they have emptied out the sadness. They have experienced it and they get that it is not as big as they thought it was. So the next time the sadness comes up, rather than suppressing it all, they may suppress some of it, but they'll allow some of the feelings to happen and they'll work through it. And it's a process of continually growing that. It's like the thing with the appointment book and taking it week by week and letting yourself grow a little bit further. So when you have feelings that are hard for you to deal with, there's a part of it where you kind of make a commitment to yourself. I'm going to be with this. I'm going to own the feeling of sadness. I'm going to take a look at it so that I know more what it is. Because remember, all of that is unconscious. So when we don't look at it and we suppress it, it stays unconscious and we still create from that. We don't change it. So people do what I call a spiritual bypass. So what they'll do is, I don't want to look at it. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to look at it with logic, with reason, with deduction. Very intelligent people do that. Smart people do that. So if you're one of the people that does that, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to own that feeling. I'm just going to change it. I'm just going to get on with my life. I'm just going to do the thing that I have to do. Sometimes, like in Kim's case, it works. It's good. It's like, I don't need to be dealing with this sickness right now. I'm just going to power through it. And doing the spiritual bypass in that kind of a moment, yay, if it gets you through it, it'll get you through it. But there's a part too when we are feeling those on a regular basis and we keep suppressing it, whatever the thing is, and I've seen this a million times, it'll get worse and worse and worse. So when you actually deal with it and you say, all right, so I'm going to look at it. I'm going to see it for what it is. I'm going to bring it up into the light, bring it up into my conscious awareness, and whatever it is, I'm going to work through it. And when you're working through it, that's where I have this tool. Many of you know. It is this one, the Fear into Power tool. It's the process of creative action. So in this tool, what are the feelings? I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling whatever. Why would I be feeling this? What is this? Is it something in the program, the 0 to 8? Is this something that is through an experience that I've had? Or is it a combination of both? What the heck is this? I don't want it loitering here anymore. I want to get rid of it. So when you're looking at it and you're working through it, you're saying, oh, this is that. And then more importantly, you don't want to loiter there forever. What's the intention? The intention is whatever this is, whatever you're now rerouting your brain to be. So you're literally saying the program that was over here that doesn't make me feel good, I'm going to reroute my brain, because we have neural pathways in our brain all the time. So when you're doing this process, you're rerouting your brain to say that it was, or the ego that it was, or whatever the thing is. And now I'm going to be the adult in the driver's seat, and I'm going to own my new, this is where I place my mind. I'm going to get back here to what I saw floating by with Miss Mary Pat. Yes, homeless. My mom died. My horse died. I had to keep going. I could not cry. I needed the energy to get through it. I needed every one. I had to work towards getting my situation better. You know what? Kudos, kudos, kudos to you. I have talked to quite a few people lately who in this moment, and believe it or not, homeless, where they have lost everything, where they have lost so much of their material. But one person in particular, and I know that she might watch this. And I got to tell you, she told me her story, and I was so incredibly impressed with her. She was homeless. And in that moment of being homeless, where she lost the material stuff, she still had her power. And this is a powerful woman. And in that moment, she took the being homeless and created like this miracle where she was able to be of service to other people. And she put one foot in front of the other, 1 week, and then the next week, and the next week, and created a really very powerful situation for herself. So even if you are at the depths, the bottom, where a lot of people are like, you know what, homeless is pretty much in that bottom scenario, you still have you, and you're the most powerful thing. And even in that moment, it's like when my clients come in and they have had those kind of bad, hard moments, I look at them and say, because you have gone through this dark night of the soul, because you have gone through this really, really hard moment, you're going to be one of the most powerful people in the world. You've been there, done that, and you have used your power to create this whole new thing. And you see how that looks. You own it. Not everybody does that. A lot of people are like, I'm going to continue suppressing my emotions forever because it's just too hard. It's too painful. I don't know what it looks like. I don't think I can do it. And they stay stuck. I mean, it's just what happens. But when you see that and you have gone through that, like when I was working in rehabs and addiction, those people that go to rehab, those are some of the most powerful people ever. They've really had to deal with, why did I use this? Why did I not own my power? What does this all look like? So they have to go in and research in great detail what their belief systems are, who they had thought that they were, and find a new, this is who I am. And that's powerful. And that's where we're creating from a point of great intention. So in a moment like this, when we've all gone through the nonsense, it's within our own ability to go through this. And you did make it, Mary Pat. Kudos, kudos, kudos to you. Kudos to you. And I bet a lot that you are helping many people in the world. Because the other part of it, when you've been there, I have been in the dark night of the soul. I have, on so many levels, created some serious nightmares for myself and people around me in my life. And that's why I do what I do. You know, when I put together this workbook, I made it like I made it because if I had learned the way that I show people, it wouldn't have taken me 10 years. It would have probably taken me a good year to get myself back on track. Jennifer says, I've been talking to myself about a certain person in my past who is still friends with my sister, but he called me awful names and decided not to be friends because of whatever he thought I was. And I realized that's his opinion of me, but not mine. And I cussed him out in my car. You know, that's another thing in life that people do. People will believe other people's opinion of who they think that they are. So this guy obviously didn't know you like I know you. He didn't see you clearly. But when we're with another person and we're not 100% ourselves, sometimes people will listen to the other person like what they're saying is true, especially if we have a belief running about who we are. Like, for instance, I had that belief running that I was stupid. I also had a belief that I wasn't valuable, I wasn't worthy, because of various things that had happened in my childhood and in my life experiences. So I chose people who matched that belief of what I thought I was. And it was never good. It might have been good for the little honeymoon period, that 6 to 8 weeks. or whatever. But there came a point where the truth comes out, and it never was what I have with my husband, Nick. And it's because I had to change my belief of who I am and find that person that matched my belief about me. And there's still a process of it, even to this day. But I met my match in a conscious way rather than an unconscious way. So if you find yourself with people who don't see you clearly, there's a part of it where you want to step back and say, do I see myself clearly? Or am I in judgment of who I have been? And then if you are honest with yourself, you be like, do I value myself? Do I honor myself? Do I honor my body? Do I hold myself as what I call the sun? And this is where I share with my clients the analogy about the sun. I just did it today. 15-year-old young person. And it was like I saw the wheels go clicking when they heard this. So we believe whatever we believe about ourselves. We all have these belief systems. And if they're not that you are the sun, I want you to think of this analogy. The sun is up there and it's the biggest thing around. Nothing messes with the sun. And we're like this. And we're the recipients of the sun, right? If we didn't have the sun, we wouldn't really be doing so well here. So I tell people, you're very much like the sun. We're powerful, beyond our imagination powerful. I'm still figuring that part out. And the more that I own it, the more my life gets really, really good and even better. So when we're being like the sun, we're bringing in that powerful energy, that intelligence, that unnameable deliciousness that is whatever you want to call it, whether it's God, whatever it is. So we're bringing it in, and we're also putting it out in the form of our feelings and our thoughts. We're putting it out. So when we're being the sun, we're saying, I am all that I am. Nothing touches me. I am powerful. I'm creating with my thoughts and my feelings. I'm healing my body. I'm creating abundance. I'm creating love. I'm being the love that I'm looking for. I am happy. I am joyful. I am abundant. I am all these things. That's when we're being the sun. And you know you're creating because you are like on. You are turned on. And we've all been there at some point. And then there's those moments where we're acting like the moon. The moon needs something to shine on it in order to be seen. I came up with this analogy once. I was working with a father and his son, and the son had some major challenges with addiction and gambling and stuff like that. And I said, you're not owning your power. It's like you're the sun and you're acting like the moon, like you need something to shine on you in order to feel whatever it is that you're feeling, in order to be seen, in order to be. And then sometimes we're acting like the dark side of the moon. And that's when we're in that really kind of gnarly place that many of us have been in. So how do you know you're acting like the moon is when you're in those fear feelings. So it's not who you are to be the moon. It's like you go to the moon to learn something, but you be the sun. So when you're being the sun, that's when you're saying, whatever those feelings are, I can handle looking at them because I'm going to get back to owning my life in a really positive, conscious, intentional way. And if we have somebody in our life that is doing whatever, you say, are you treating me like I'm a sun, or are you treating me like I'm like a moon or the dark side of the moon? And if you're with somebody that's not treating you like you are the greatest thing on the planet, then you need to step back and take a look at that. Am I treating myself like I'm the greatest thing on the planet? If you're not treating yourself like you're the greatest thing on the planet, do some work on it. Do that fear into power. Where did I learn that I'm less than? Where did I learn that this is something that I want to put up with? For a lot of us, we're in the back seat of our parents' car when we're growing up, and we're just watching how mom and dad are acting, or however the caregivers are acting, how they're treating each other. Sometimes we're in our car and we've got siblings in the back seat with us, and they're treating us a certain way. Anything that we're learning from 0 to 8, we're just learning it. It's not who we are, it's what we learn. So now as adults, we're the driver in the front seat, and you get to choose. You get to make those conscious choices. But you have to choose from a point of awareness. You have to choose from a point of being informed. So as much as, like what I was saying at the beginning of it, we're getting information that is not accurate. So we have to see it more clearly in order to make these conscious choices. The other part of it is you might have gotten information before that wasn't exactly accurate. It was somebody else's belief systems, somebody else's ideas. Like my mother's idea, yeah, she's cute, but she's not that smart. I believed it. I acted from it. I'm not doing that anymore because I'm in the driver's seat. I'm the adult. It was little Audrey that learned that. So as the adult, I tell her, listen, you learned some stuff. It wasn't exactly accurate. In reality, you're wildly intelligent and you're very capable and you're wise and you're all these things. And so I'm redirecting that thought, redirecting her beliefs so that I'm driving with conscious intention. And remember the other part of the drivers. There's the driver, that's the driver, the little kid in the back seat, and then the biggest part of us. So we step back and we allow that higher part of us to lead the way. Like when we're having this moment, there's a part of it that I'm trusting that divine right action's taking place for all of us. I'm trusting that we're all working through this. I'm trusting that we're all getting the information that we need to make these conscious choices. I'm trusting in all of our higher power to make this life better than we ever dreamed possible. Because seriously, when we've all gone through the dark night of the soul as we have, we all get to go higher with it. We all get to do more with it. Does that make sense? Thank you so much, Mary Pat. That's very sweet. You know what? And you're right, Jen. Sometimes we do believe what people say because they are like a father figure. And think about it. When we're in the back seat of the car and we're in from 0 to 8, we're all just learning how to be. And the parents, whoever's in the driver's seat, they're the most important thing. They're everything. We don't discern the difference between they're telling me something wrong or right or good or bad or whatever. We just take it as this is what it is. You know, I've always said there's this person that I had looked up to, and it's Rihanna. And I was like, damn, she's just like, aha, she's just a badass. She's wow. And I love the way she sang, and she's just like so much. And then she was having that experience with her boyfriend. And I'm like, what the heck is that? Why would she, this powerful woman, get into a situation where this guy is hurting her? And then I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe in her 0 to 8, that's what love looked like. We don't know the difference. That's why women pick men that are like with them. That's what they learn love looks like. Same thing with men. Why do they pick women who are whatever? That's what they learn love looks like. So then you get to a point, it's like, all right, I want to be an adult here, and I want to pick what I want love to look like. So that's your task for this week. What do you want love to look like? What do you want your life to be? What are you willing to do to change it? Get a calendar. Start marking in there. You can do it weekly. You can do it daily. Today, I'm going to make healthier food choices. Next day, I'm going to get out and get a little bit more exercise. The next day, I don't want to do anything the next day. I'm just going to sit on the couch and wallow in it. You get to choose it all. What makes you feel good for the day? And sometimes we want to go back to that comfort point where it's like, you know what? I just don't want to do anything but sit there and just be a kid and watch The Office for the umpteenth time. How many of you out there have watched The Office? I have had so many clients that are like, you know what, during COVID, I watched The Office, like, I don't even know how many times because it was comfortable. It was home. Is it going to get them a lot? Probably not, but it feels good. It felt comfortable. It felt, like home. So maybe some days you just need to watch The Office, and that's okay too. So we don't judge these things. We just look at it with compassion, with understanding, and you just keep doing the best you can in every given moment. And find people that support you. Find people that love you. Find people that think that you're the flippin' sun. Find people that honor you. I'm glad you like that assignment, Jenna. We'll be looking forward to hearing how you do with it. I can't believe it's 8 o'clock already. I rambled on a lot tonight. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you very much for supporting me with this. And thank you very much for just sharing your love. And this week, share lots of love with everybody. And next week, Nick and I are going to be on Mainstream Metaphysics with our friend Dr. Kristen. And I will be back here again next Thursday night. Would love to have you join us. And go to newmontcenter.net to the calendar page. We're going to be putting up some new things soon. Thank you, honey. My husband Nick is on here. He's my fellow son. He makes me happy. He's a good man. You're welcome, Mary Pat. And thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate all of you. Gloria, good night to you too. All right. Love you all so much. I'm a minute over. I'll see you soon. Good night. Oh, and I get dinner. Bye, guys.